Huh. I've read things you people wouldn't believe.
Hello. So, after a pause on horror stories, I've decided to put on my radioactive gear and dive back into the cesspit of Reddit. Actually, today I'll be narrating an old Amazon review, which has been stuck in my brain casket for useless memories for many years now. It dates back to 2004, when the internet was still the wild, wild west. A young version of me was listening to nu metal and watching Flash cartoons on somethingawful.com. It was the year that World of Warcraft would debut and ruin my life for a few years. Whilst trawling Amazon for old and rare fantasy books, I came across a name that would change my life forever. Osgod. Who knows why he calls himself that? More specifically, his review of Gary Gygax's Dance with Demons Gord novel, which was titled, "Words Really Can't Describe This Book, but I'll Try Anyway."
Hey guys, it's Speedy here, friend of the channel. Here's an ad for Helios' new Shadow Dark PDF. Enjoy!
Hark, O adventurers of fame and fortune. Beyond the wild plains and its centaur tribes lies the decadent city of Orbost, the City of Knives. An ancient, coastal city where pirates trade with border men in stolen goods, rare silks, and spices. There, the rule of knives keeps the city's noble houses and crime gangs in check. All denizens of the city know the rule, whether written or by oral tradition. It proclaims that daggers are everyone's right to bear. The house with the most daggers pledged to it rules the city, and if an accused survives the walk of knives, they are sanctified. Other than the path of knives, beware the Colosseum, where gladiators will soak the sand for their brutal god, Furos. But the god of war is not the only dark deity whose followers reside in the city. Jig-Sarkar, the god of thieves, is perhaps the most worshipped. His temples lie beneath the city, in a place known as the Thieves' Highway, a myriad of saws, secret tunnels, and basements all linked to create a hidden road, which is rumored to connect each major city on the continent. Or so they say. Rasir, god of lies and secrets, holds sway over the spy networks, Assassin's Guild, and mystic cults in their temple in the Old Quarter, whilst Lithcal, the goddess of seduction and earthly pleasures, holds power in the brothels and drug dens by the docks. Each have their own territories, their own piece of the city's humanity. But should you enter the city, well, I suspect I will never see you again.
And they say bad things about Ed Greenwood. Let me tell you, Gary Gygax definitely created the Uber Munchkin concept, with the culmination of his central character, Gord the Rogue, first introduced in the Saga of Old City and Artifact of Ultimate Evil. I'll skip the descriptives for Gord and his cohorts, as I'm assuming that if you've managed to get this far, you know who they all are. Let me interject for a second here. When I first read this review, I was delving into D&D novels, so I really didn't know who Gord or his friend Geller, who they were back then. So this was my first sort of dip into Gygax's creative writing. Elminster seriously looks like a shrimp compared to this guy. At this stage of the saga, I think there are 7 books ahead of it. Gord's still human, using that term very loosely, but he's got about a zillion innate powers and godlike abilities. In one sequence, he kills about 2,000 demons, I kid you not, by himself, while his partner, also human, kills another 2,000. I've forgotten how Super Saiyan Gord was in this book. All this happens in one encounter. In another one, he faces off with the Reaper Nerul, Lord of Hades, also known as Infestix, also known as the supreme leader of the Yugoloths, daemons, and kicks his ass. Did I say that Gord at this stage is not even 30 years old? Dance of Demons has to be the worst book I have ever read. Gary, who is rightfully regarded as the father of D&D, must have gone completely dry on ideas and penned this one for the money. His former narrative brilliance, so much in evidence in Saga of Old City and Artifact of Ultimate Evil, raised hopes that he was one of the few D&D writers who could stand amongst the contemporary fantasy crowd. I beg to differ. I definitely think Salvatore and Margaret Wise and Tracy Hickman are up there with writers like Feist. etc. But this book is a shocker. No suspense, no twists, nothing but Super Gord cutting a swath through every single thing. It's AD&D Munchkinism at its absolute worst. Gord is now the champion of balance. Good and evil are both undesirable, and is impervious to defeat, and demon lords like Grazit, Demogorgon, Mandrillagon, and Orcus, as well as Daemon Kings like Anthraxis and Infestix, and the Dukes Infernal, Asmodeus and co., quail before his relentless onslaught. And yes, as I said before, he's still human. And just what exactly can Super Gord do? Don't worry, these aren't spoilers, as they are revealed in the first 5 pages of the book. Well, he can communicate by telepathy, he can move to any place with a thought, he can drop off other wizards' radars and do the stealth bomber thing. Oh man, I can imagine Gord flying through the air like Superman, stealth bomber style. His armor is lighter than air. He has a magic ring which, when worn, makes it impossible for anyone to hurt him, either physically or magically. Since he's supposed to be a thief, he has these special gloves which allow him to fall any distance and land like a cat, i.e. fly downwards. Oh, and he wields Corflame, the mighty sword of neutrality, which has the ability to kill thousands of demons with a thought. This guy's like far more powerful than any Jedi, Saiyan. Yeah, he's definitely an Uber Munchkin of the highest pedigree. Here are some excerpts of one of his battles in the Abyss that will have you rolling on the floor.
Gord raised the diamond-bright part of Corflam, aiming at the demon's outthrust head. The sword's tip suddenly spat forth a black bolt of force. The crackling ebon dart sheared off the top of the fiend's head, and the impact of it actually flipped the demon's massive body over in a somersault. Without pausing to view his work, Gord turned and faced his next foe, now aiming the long blade as if it were a wand. Again, the inky core of the weapon sent forth a blast of dark power, and another of the charging demons died. It became almost mechanical thereafter. Gord pointed the blade, willed destruction, and again another monstrous beast crashed down dead. Again, yet again. Soon a half-circle of twitching demon corpses formed a barrier in front of him, a wall so great that the young champion could see nothing but its stinking height.
Its stinking hide. And if that's not enough for you, Geller, his sidekick, has certainly grown from being a rapscallion guardian of Gords from the first couple of books. Here's an example of what he's like in combat with demons.
Geller brought forth his ivory cantil, adjusted one of the golden pegs, and gently stroked the silver strings of the little harp. A ripple of beautiful notes washed outward, and the demon beasts reacted as if they had been struck by a tidal wave. When the sounds from the enchanted strings of the instrument struck, fully a dozen of the massive monsters were bowled over, while 100 of the lesser scavengers were blown away, some actually torn to pieces in the process.
Man, that would have been one epic song. And here's a final excerpt to blow you away. Literally.
Side by side, the two heroes strode across the endless leagues of the foul layer that was the entry to the Abyss. In a short time, thanks to their innate force, they came to the towering bluffs that housed the gateways to the next 20 tiers of the agglomeration of plains that formed the depth of evil called Demon Realm, the Abyss. A few hundred lesser demons were there to contest their entry, prevent them from going on, but those malign guards died in vain, swiftly and without great effort from the pair. A clear and bright melody from the cantil, some dark and deadly lightnings from the rejoined sword Corflam, and none stood to oppose them.
Okay, this last part had me in stitches. If you still want to go ahead after all that, then you probably need a lobotomy. I would have to give it 0 stars, but unfortunately the lowest vote is 1, so 1 it is. Oh, and a special note to Gary's lawyers, should they decide to chase me. This is just an opinion. Okay, so this this review has been sitting with me for years, and now I finally was able to convert it into a horror story. Not a traditional Reddit horror story, mind you, but still. But yeah, guys, I will be releasing some more horror stories in the coming days and weeks, and also the Shadowdark city drop of Orbost, the City of Knives, will be hopefully dropped by the end of the month. But until then,